When Wipeout burst upon the scene in 1995 with its stylish brand of combative anti-gravity racing, people were glad. There was a lot to like about what Psygnosis had created. The racing was fast, the tracks looked great and were well designed, the soundtrack was intense. It was just a fantastic, futuristic racing game. There have been many more games in the series since then, and while the first two Wipeout games appeared on multiple platforms, the franchise is strongly tied to Sony consoles, which makes sense as Sony acquired Psygnosis in 1993. But there is one Wipeout game that didn't appear on a Sony machine, and that's this one, Wipeout 64, for the Nintendo 64. Released in 1998, Wipeout 64 is a racing game featuring hovercraft, weapons, speed, destruction, general good happy time feelings, and will be very familiar to fans of Wipeout XL. The weapons are for the most part the same, the graphics have a similar look, and you might even notice that 6 of the 7 tracks are actually mirrored and edited versions of courses from earlier games in the series, albeit set in new locations. I honestly never noticed this back when the game was new, beyond a vague sense of déjà vu, but that just shows how observant I am, which is not very. But despite that, I think this game's definitely worth getting if you're a fan of the series, because the gameplay is still great. The control with the N64's analog stick is really responsive. The vehicles seem to have less sway when turning than in Wipeout XL, which makes the handling more forgiving. The weapons and power-ups from Wipeout XL have returned, with the addition of vehicle-specific super weapons, which range from machine guns to shield drains, to energy walls to cloaking devices, all fun and fine and nice weapony things. The graphics are a mixed bag. The game's got a smooth frame rate, but there is a healthy amount of pop-up going on, and the draw distance isn't the best. On the plus side, while the Nintendo 64 is known for blurry graphics, they managed to minimize this a lot for this game, and it looks pretty sharp with a lot of detail, although I do probably prefer the even crispier look of the PlayStation games, but it's still nice looking. The sound is excellent, including the music, which I think sounds great even though it's obviously lacking the benefit of CD audio. The tunes sound clear yet crunchy, which I like, and it fits in with the style of the game. Awesome sounds for a cartridge-based title. The game modes of Wipeout 64 might be a little different than one would expect. You've got regular single race and time trial modes, but instead of tournaments or a Grand Prix mode that progressively gets more difficult, you have a bunch of challenges to complete. These are races with different settings regarding what ship you use, what weapons are available, and so on, and different goals to meet, like finishing above a certain place, beating a lap time in a time trial, or destroying a specified number of opponents during the race. Rounding out the features, Wipeout 64 offers split-screen multiplayer for up to 4 people, and it also came with a poster. Alright, poster, yay! So is Wipeout 64 worth getting? I think so, but what do I know? Not much. But it should be pretty inexpensive these days. And if you're a fan of the Wipeout franchise, it's interesting just because it's a Nintendo 64 exclusive in the PlayStation-centric series. But it also plays great. It might seem like a bit of a rip-off as most of the tracks are remixes, if you will, of earlier courses, but they really feel like unique tracks to me. And then you add in the accurate analog steering, some new weapon types, and split-screen multiplayer, and you've got all the ingredients for a hearty bowl of video game excitement. So get your spoons ready, cause Wipeout 64 is soup? Yeah, Wipeout 64 is good tasting soup.